Hey YouTube, Steph here, and I'm so happy you could join me on my channel, Ruby and the Muse. My channel is all about being creatively inspired, and I hope that I'm inspiring all of you. If this video got your creative juices flowing, please hit the like and subscribe button for future inspiration. So let's get into today's project. The creative muses have guided me into creating these fabulous recipe envelopes that I glued into my sketchbook so that I can find all the recipes that I found online and have inspired me into cooking in the kitchen. This is a real lifesaver for me because I hate cooking. I hate being in the kitchen, and mostly I just hate everything about it. I've looked up recipes online in the past, and then I go back to try and find that recipe only to find another similar recipe that calls for different ingredients. So I improvise, and the whole dish is suddenly unedible. So writing down these inspirational recipes that I found online and keeping them in my sketchbook where I can find the list of ingredients and step-by-step instructions is a must. This will encourage me to cook in the kitchen instead of calling DoorDash like I would prefer. So, for you see, my story of kitchen misfortune takes us back to my childhood when I was 10. This is the tale of the memory of deviled eggs. So, it was Easter time, and everybody was getting together. We were having a huge neighborhood gathering, and all of our neighbors were going to bring some kind of dish for us to eat during this little Easter celebration. And my mom volunteered to make deviled eggs, and I remembered watching my relatives in the past make deviled eggs, and I was like, I know how to make deviled eggs. So I, being 10 years old and overconfident, said, hey mom, I can make the deviled eggs. And so my mom said, oh, okay, I'll let you make the deviled eggs. So I go inside, and I take these eggs and I cut them open and I throw away the yolks. Now, these eggs were already hard-boiled, so I cut them open and threw away the yolk, and then I remembered mayo and mustard. That was probably the only thing that I remembered. That and the fact that you had to keep the actual egg. So I mix up some mayo and some mustard, and it's not looking quite right, so I was like, I think they might add some ketchup to it. So I added a little ketchup to it, and then I took my little mixture and I plopped them in the eggs, and my mom comes in, and she's looking at it, and she's like, what'd you use to make this? And I told her what I mixed up, and she's looking at me and she's like, what'd you do with the egg yolk? And I'm like, I threw it away. And my mom, she's like, this is trash. I can't feed these people these eggs. That's disgusting. I mean, I'm sorry I'm laughing. It's funny now. Back in the day it wasn't, because I wasted that food and I feel really bad about it. But yeah, it's funny to think back on. But luckily, I learned from my mistake, and I can now successfully make deviled eggs, and I don't throw away the yolks. So unfortunately, my tales of kitchen misfortune don't end there. Grilled cheeses are particularly difficult for me to make. Not because it's difficult to make. It's just boring. So let's fast forward to a few years later in my teens. I'm making this grilled cheese sandwich, and I get to talking to myself because, whatever I had going on in my head was really interesting. And I walk away from the pan, and then I come back to the pan, and I remember, hey, you're cooking a grilled cheese. So I flip the grilled cheese over. One side of it is completely black. The other side of it ended up being a toasty brown color. It was unedible, and I tried to feed it to the dog, and the dog refused to eat it. So yeah, that was not a success. Grilled cheeses often are not a success for me, and that's sad. Anyway, another tale is of a forgotten birthday cake. You see, it was my brother's birthday, and I volunteered to make him a cake. I said, hey, I'm going to make you a cake for your birthday. my brother's like, oh, okay. So I mix up this cake. I mixed it up right. Everything was right. Everything was good. Popped it in the oven, turned the timer on, and walked away. Walked into the living room, nestled down on the couch, popped open that fourth Harry Potter book, and away went the time. And I hear this beeping. And I'm sitting there in the middle of my story because I'm really involved at this point. And there's still this beeping. I'm like, God, I wish that beeping would just stop. And my brother walks over and he goes, hey, my birthday cake's finished. Don't you hear the oven beeping? Are you going to pull it out? So I remember then, I was making a cake. So I jump up and I pull his birthday cake out of the oven. And it wasn't burnt. I didn't burn this cake. It was a good cake. It was still edible. It was just dry. It was a little dry. So all in all, since it was still edible, I consider it a success. But anyways, being all grown up now, I have successfully started a oven fire. There was this recipe that I looked up about stuffed meatloaf. I was really excited about making this stuffed meatloaf because it was the meatloaf. You put some mac and cheese in the center of it and you wrap it up with some bacon and you get this really delicious stuffed meatloaf. And I was really excited about it. And I was like, I'm going to try this recipe. So I get started. I get the meatloaf in there. I wrap the bacon up and I got the mac and cheese stuffed up in there. And I pop it in the oven. And I didn't know at the time that the bacon grease, it drips. So it ended up dripping into the bottom of the oven. And I started an oven fire. And my fabulous husband just decided that we were going to have pizza for dinner that night. And we did not have stuffed meatloaf. So, yeah. And then I'm going to fast forward to a few months ago when I made some fried chicken. This was the second time I made fried chicken because the first time I made fried chicken, I turned the stove all the way up to high, and then I plopped my breaded chicken in the grease, and I ended up making the outside of my chicken completely black, and the inside of my chicken was this bright pink color. So it was not edible at all. And my husband was like, okay, we are going to order KFC and call it a night. So that's what happened. And then the second time that I made fried chicken, it was a success. I successfully made this fried chicken a few months ago, but the grease was hot. I didn't turn it up quite so high, and this chicken was actually pretty damn delicious, if I do say so myself. So I didn't turn the grease up that high. I popped it in there. I cooked the chicken the right way, but the grease is still hot, and it was popping all over the stove, and I started a stove fire. And my husband grabbed one of our fancy towels from the bathroom. He came running and he put the fire out. So luckily nothing was ruined, nothing was damaged. The oven and the stove still work. The fire was put out and everything is good. And I've learned my lesson with the grease and the fried chicken and oven fires. So hopefully these little recipes here will just, help me along in the kitchen. So, yeah. And I will end my tales of kitchen misfortune in hopes that these recipe envelopes will be a true inspiration and a lifesaver. And so, do any of you have difficulty in the kitchen, or is that just me? I would love to hear your tales of kitchen misfortune or success in the comments. And if you are a chef, your knowledge is always cherished. So I hope this relaxing Zen Doodle color experiment with these envelopes inspired you to create something that will help keep you organized. Look at all those colors. This is really so simple to make, and it's a lot of fun. If you are artistic or you're just looking for a fun, easy way to keep a hold of things, give it a try. it's a lot of fun. It's kind of like those what are those adult coloring books with the animals with all the little lines and patterns and stuff. I like to think of this as kind of like that. It's just a little cheaper and, like I said, a lot of fun. So, anyways, um, if nothing else, I hope my embarrassing kitchen misfortunes inspired you to laugh at your own mistakes and cherish all that you have learned. Until next time, friends, thanks for watching, and I am going to end this with a little music, and I hope you enjoyed. So,